Hi, folks. Steve Urban here, host of the Riderflex podcast and founder and CEO of our day job recruiting firm, Riderflex. We hope you enjoy this episode. And as a reminder, please subscribe to the podcast for updates and news. Finally, if you haven't already, check out the series of books we've published on hiring, interviewing, and overall career advice titled The Riderflex Guide, available on Amazon. And now, a quick word from our sponsor.
Most homeowners don't have the time or expertise to properly take care of their home, which causes costly issues to arise. That's where Kira Home Maintenance comes in. We're a full-service, routine maintenance company that was developed by a certified home inspector. Each quarter, we service our clients' homes following manufacturer's recommendations to properly maintain all the necessary appliances. We provide the materials and expertise to prolong the life of your property, creating a healthy and efficient environment for your family. From top to bottom, we'll maintain and service your home. To get started, we have a property inspection to determine what needs to be maintained, and a maintenance plan is created based on your preferences. From refrigerator coils to filters, vents, and drains, we do it all, and we do it well. Contact us today for your free routine maintenance inspection, and never worry about your maintenance again.
Wow! Tell me about your childhood, your parents, and where you grew up. Give us some history, if you don't mind.
Right, history. So I grew up in Nigeria. So Nigeria is in the western part of Africa. I grew up in a village actually. If I call the name of the village, you're probably not going to be able to pronounce it. But I grew up in a village. But I also grew up in a university environment. So my parents were lecturers. So presently, so if we step back to growing up, they were not professors, but presently my mom and dad are both professors. My mom is a professor of English, dad is a professor of geography, presently retired. But yeah, growing up was, pretty much the child of teachers, and in that part of Africa in those days, they were not the very well paid people in society, so it was a bit tough. Yeah, and then there was five of us, so I didn't, up to today, I still struggle with a few things. So, I didn't grow up with, a lot of food on the table, or I didn't grow up in the era where your dad would say, go to sleep, and he would turn back and say, why? I'm not ready to sleep. Oh, I didn't grow up in that era, So, when daddy says go to sleep, and you say, why? You probably are not going to have breakfast, lunch, dinner the following day. So, yeah. So now my kids say, go to bed. Why? I'm not sleepy yet. I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. It's your bedtime, but I don't want to go to bed. Wow. Like, when did we get here? So, like, so that was it. So growing up, yeah. So it was pretty tough. Had to, sort of scratch and crawl for a few things because didn't have a lot of that. And then went to university, studied computer engineering. Yeah, and it was tough. Sometimes I honestly had to, do what you called hawking, sell a few things on my head to sort of just get by. But yeah, we made it through.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
So your folks are still married, still alive, still doing
Yep,
fine?
yep. Still married, still married. Mom and dad are still married, retired now. So because it's been a while. So, but they're both retired now. And yeah, they're
In
still based in
Nigeria?
Nigeria.
Are they still
Yep,
in
they're still
Nigeria
based
or?
in Nigeria.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
they're still based in Nigeria.
Okay.
So yeah, but here's the thing though. Kudos to them because, well, maybe because they were also lecturers. They understood the value of education, so they were ready to sort of break the bank for education for all their kids. And so everybody went to school.
Very good.
When things got better for them, they actually even tried. For my siblings, they got masters and people have all those kind of things. So yeah.
Wow. Are
I think
you the only one with a doctorate?
Yeah, I'm the only one with a doctorate.
Uh,
So I have a doctorate in leadership and innovation from the Swiss School of Business, Geneva. So yes, but I
very good.
don't think I have plans to become a professor actually, but I love teaching, so maybe I got that from them.
Were you a good, were you a straight A student, good kid, or were you a rebel, or were you, did you get in some trouble, or were you,
Good point. So I was I was like a pendulum. I think I swung different ways at different times. So in in primary school and high school, what we sort of called secondary school back then, in high school, I think I was average, right? I was, in primary school, I think I was straight A. Secondary school, I was struggling, which is high school. In college, oh my God, I struggled in college just like everybody. I mean, I was distracted with women, I was distracted with everything, with clubs, with girls, with everything that distracts you in college.
yeah.
So struggled a lot, but ultimately just scraped through and made it out. So no, I wasn't. I mean, I wasn't. I wish I. I
Okay.
mean, I honestly wish I were, because I mean, my kids are gonna see this someday and say, "Dad, we're not straight A." Yep, I wasn't, guys. So, so
Did
yeah, I
you
mean,
know,
but I wasn't.
did you know that you wanted to go on to get your doctorate? Was that a plan from the very beginning, or that kind of developed over time?
That developed. That developed. I am a very efficient and sort of find the smartest, shortest way to achieve a goal kind of person. So, I mean, anything that sounds like a stretch, I'm just going to drop it and find a quicker way. Maybe it comes with IT and tech and all of that kind of stuff. So, no, I wasn't that kind of guy. Um, I mean, it happened when it happened, and then, sort of moved on from it. I
Okay.
mean, I have so the funny thing is, maybe again, because I'm in technology and I don't have goals like, oh, I want to have a doctorate, oh, I want to have this sort of, I just sort of learn learn to move on to the next thing, learn to achieve the next thing. So I mean, for example, I have 10 cybersecurity certifications, right?
Wow.
But that's been over the years, because my simple goal was one every year, one every year, one every year. So that's
Yeah.
it.
Okay. Very good. Before we get into the professional stuff, I want to ask, how did you meet your wife?
Hmm. So here's a love story, ladies and gentlemen. We were so we were both working in Deloitte. Okay. So we both worked with Deloitte. That's where we started our careers. Now, so in Deloitte, I was at that time, I was sort of one of the people who, train the new hires. I was sort of the guy who modeled the behaviors of the company. So I would be allowed to go talk to every time there's a new hire, there's a new
Uh,
set of them. I'm going to go talk to them. These are the values of the company. If you want to do well here, this is what it means, all that kind of stuff.
okay.
Then she comes in a set, and then I'm like, this girl is fine.
uh,
Then I'm with a bunch of friends one day, and
good.
somebody mentions it again, like, do you know Dami? Like, ooh, that girl is fine. I'm like, okay, that's it. I need to go say hello. So typically, when I used to work with Deloitte, and I think I still do that. Once I come to work in the morning, as soon as I drop my bag, I do what I call the round. So I go table to table to say hello to everybody. So I go to her table and I say, hello, how are you? And she says hi and all of that stuff. And then I'm like, you are marked for a relationship. But but yeah, so that's where we met. Said hi
Very
to
good.
her, tried to get attention, all of that stuff. Yeah, so eventually,
Good.
story. We got married again in professional services. The truth is, you are so busy that the only people you sort of get to see are the people you work with, to be honest, at that time. So that's how we met. That's how we got
Very,
married.
very good. Very. Where's
Yeah.
she from?
She's from Nigeria too.
She's from
She's from
Nigeria. Okay.
Nigeria.
Okay.
Nigeria has 250 different languages.
Is that
250
right? I
different
did not know.
languages.
Did not know that.
Yep. So Nigeria has 250 different languages, and so we both speak, different languages. In our parents' era, they sort of used to make sure you at least you speak the same language so that you could have those kind of conversations where just both of you to get it. But in our time, yes, I remember one of the questions her mom asked me was, "So how are you guys going to communicate?" And I'm like, English. So yeah.
Do
But
your
yeah, so that
children?
was it. Did a
Do your
destination wedding in
daughters? As you raise your daughters now in the UK, because you're living in the UK full time, right?
Yep.
Do they? Are you working on trying to make sure they speak other languages, or what's your plan? I'm just curious there.
So, yes, intentional about trying to speak other languages. So thankfully, there's this university of YouTube where you could learn a few things by like that. They also sort of do French lessons. So I mean, learn one international language, learn English. There's also a language in Nigeria. It's called Yoruba. So it's called Yoruba. That's my wife's language. And it's one of the big languages in Nigeria. So hopefully they get to learn that. My language, I don't even speak it. Sadly, I mean, whatever. I lost it. I'm a lost child. So yeah, so I rather just speak my wife's language. So yeah.
Do you? I guess the UK. Living in the UK was probably professional reasons, jobs or whatever. Is that what originally got you there in that area?
Jobs.
Yeah.
Jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, I had thankfully worked in, yes, I mean, I worked in different places, but yeah, UK
Okay.
for now.
And I'm just curious now that you're, doing various things. I'm guessing you could live somewhere else if you wanted to. Could you live in a different country if you wanted to, based on what you're doing now, or no? Or are you kind of trapped there?
Yeah, I mean, I can. To be honest, I can.
Okay. The
I
reason
moved to the UK just from Dubai, what, 6 months ago. I was in
Oh,
Dubai for 2 years.
okay.
Yes, I lived in Dubai for
Okay.
2 years. Before then,
Okay.
I lived in Nigeria. I had done a stint in Ghana.
Okay.
Then yes, stayed in the US. I mean, I stayed in the US just for a little bit. Stayed in South Africa for 2 years. So I mean, been around, but yeah, presently in the UK. But I mean, I just moved here from Dubai a few months ago.
Question: Do you and your wife want to live in UK for social economic reasons, or because you like the country, or because professionally that's where you
It
want to be?
works professionally. It works professionally. It
Okay.
works professionally.
Okay.
Yeah, it works professionally. And I mean, I like, so to be honest, being around the world a bit, I just feel like we're all the same. Everybody complains about where they are. When you go somewhere else, you find out that the people there complain. When you move out of there, the people complain. Nobody's satisfied with where they are. The grass is just greener on the other side. Just because you don't live on the other side, you feel the grass is greener. That's just the world. It's just a crazy circle.
That's a great point. That's a great point, Doctor. Isn't that so true, right? People that live in the US, a lot of people that live in the US and have never been to another country or a third world country, they complain, and you're like,
Man, anytime I'm in the US and I hear some of the things they complain about, I'm like, oh my God, you need to go somewhere else. And then when I'm in the UK and I hear the stuff they complain about, oh, I'm in the UK, there's always the weather. I'm like, oh my God, you need to go to some other Middle East. You get to the Middle East, it's 49 degrees sometimes. The birds are falling off the sky. They're dying down. I mean, so, and then those guys, oh, they want to go to London. London want to go. So it's just a crazy circle.
Can I ask you, what do people in Nigeria generally, kind of a generalization, generally, what do they think of US citizens? Like when you know what I mean? What's kind of the general impression? I'm just curious.
What's the general impression? Is there a general impression?
Yeah, is there? I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah. So I mean, I think different things at different times, because I mean, you get to hear different things from the US depending on if you're Fox or if you're CNN, that sort of thing. So you get to hear different things from the US. I mean, I think the general feeling is your the setup of your entire government is sort of the Nigerian structure is sort of a copy and paste
Oh,
of
is
the
it?
way the US, yeah, the
Oh,
Senate, the
okay.
all of those side of things. Yeah, I mean, so the Nigerian system tries to copy it. So when it's time for elections, you keep hearing things like, oh, in the US, this happened. If you look at the US, so there's always that comparison, so we follow the US elections so much because, I mean, you're always like, okay, what,
Interesting.
how's it done? How's it done? Oh, now people are doing fundraisers for their campaigns. Oh my goodness, in Nigeria now, there are just so many fundraisers when people are trying to do elections and stuff like that. So, so people
Interesting.
copy that. Yep, yeah. So you'd be shocked. So they raise hundreds of millions of dollars now for campaigns in Nigeria, and they tell you, "Yep, this is the way it's done in the US. If you want me to go, you bankroll me and that kind of stuff." So there you go. That's
Okay, interesting. Can I ask this? And I'm going to sound really ignorant when I ask this next one, so forgive me ahead of time. Militarily, who do we back you? Like who's your buddy? Who takes care of you if bad things happen? Is that the US or is that the UK or both? How does that work? You mind educating me there?
for Nigeria, yeah. For Nigeria,
Yes.
I mean, I think they have ties with both, to be honest. I mean, I think they have to. I think they have ties with both.
Okay.
Yeah, they have ties with both.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious.
They have
And then
ties with both. But
and then
I think I
what?
get to see. Um, who do I get to see a lot more in Nigeria? To be honest, I don't even know. Cause, I mean, I in Nigeria, I stay in Lagos. Lagos is like New York, which pretty much belongs to nobody. Which is like London, which is like Dubai. It's just everybody from everywhere in one place and that
Really?
sort of thing. So yeah. I mean, that's Lagos. You would see there are places in Lagos you go, you see only people from Mexico. They just found a community there. You get to
Really?
another place, you see you see people from Lebanon. You get to another place, oh, this is just people from the US. You get to just people from the UK. Just like that. Lagos is yeah, it's pretty much like London, Dubai. You just see people from all over the world.
The poverty that you've seen in Africa, does it weigh on you emotionally, psychologically?
Oh, of course, Steve. Look, um, you know, again, I mean, I think some of those things sort of shape my worldview because you, some of what people actually go through. I mean, yes, so are there beggars in Africa? Yes. Are there beggars in London on the streets in the US? Everywhere? There are beggars everywhere. But the challenge in Africa is just the volume, right? And in Nigeria, for example, there are people who genuinely do not, and it's not like the West where there's the social system where the government is will take care of XYZ. Sometimes even the data to even know who are the most vulnerable, we don't even have it, right? So you have people going to bed without food. You have people who cannot go to schools. In places like the West, education is free to certain levels. You don't have that yet, and so you have a lot more private driven quality education given, and those private colleges and schools are very expensive. Yeah, so they're very expensive. So I mean, I just think generally, so for me, for example, I have a foundation called the Fene Osakwe Foundation. And what we do is three things. So we run three campaigns. One, we pay for kids of single moms who cannot afford to pay school fees for their kids. So
Ah,
we pay their school fees for a year. So this
okay.
year, presently, I'm presently paying for about 15 of those.
Good for you.
Um, yeah, at Christmas, every Christmas, we do what we call Christmas with a smile. And what we're trying to do is put the smile on faces of people in Nigeria and Africa who, didn't have a good year. So we just try within Christmas to just try and put a smile on their face. I mean, the last time we spent about $10,000 just to do that.
Nice.
and put a smile on their face, especially those whose parents lost their jobs, in the course of the year. So yeah.
Nice. Is there a website for the foundation? Is there something you want to mention there?
Yeah. So my foundation actually is on my website. So feneosakwe.com. There's a tab for the foundation. You'll see some of the campaigns we run. And I just think anyone who could support should support, because oh my gosh, so you need to get to some places in Africa. I mean, just think about it. For example, in a country like Nigeria, averagely the colleges are churning out probably 50,000 graduates in a year.
Okay.
And just think that the people who get jobs are maybe about 500. It's that bad. Like, the gap is that bad.
Wow.
So yeah, so the gap is that bad. So it has its good and bad side. So it's driven a lot of people to be a lot more entrepreneurial and all that kind of stuff, right? So you have a lot of entrepreneurs, but it's also just keeps making the gap between the rich and the poor just keep widening. And so we just need to help.
Yeah. The amount of things that you've probably seen where people don't have fresh water, people don't have sanitation, basic toilets, whatever.
Yep.
Isn't that interesting how you've seen a lot of that, and then you travel to the US and people complain because somebody said something about them on Instagram or something. It's like, come on, man.
Look, man. Some of those times typical story. You see the headlines of newspapers in Nigeria are things like, oh, XYZ number of kids died because they probably, there was some attack somewhere, or XYZ number of people have lost their jobs, 50,000 people lose their jobs, or you see things like, farmers, an entire farmland was just consumed with flood, and so 50,000 farmers have lost, their livelihood. Then you come to the US and the UK and you hear things like, headlines are, do you think it's right for your daughter not to be invited to the class party when other kids were invited? And you're like, no way, this is a problem. And you see things like, and you hear stuff like, do you think it's right for the government to tell you that you cannot tell your kids what to learn in school? I'm like, what are these problems, guys? What are these problems? What is this?
That is crazy. Yeah, I know.
Like, guys, there are real problems.
There are real.
These are just. I mean, what's all this? What is all this?
I did a post about that the other day. You turn on the news and the main story is Biden tripped on stage. It's like, okay, there are real problems in the world. Like, that's the lead story, that Biden tripped on stage. Like, there are real problems, kids that don't have education, kids that don't have school, sanitation. Like, come on, man. Yeah. That stuff drives me nuts. Okay, sir. Well, I appreciate you.
Yeah, I mean, it's always shocking.
I appreciate you.
I always look at it. I'm like, wow, really? This is your problem? Oh, I'm so depressed. Why are you so depressed? Oh, my son was not invited to the class party last week, and all the other kids were. I'm like, okay. How about I'm so depressed because 5 of my siblings just died last week from malaria.
Right. Exactly.
And they didn't have the drugs or anything like that,
If this is a pretty socially, politically driven question. You may not want to answer it, but hypothetically, based on what you've seen and where you're from, if you had the power, just say you had a magic wand, and across the planet, not just by country, but globally, you could equalize income and material things for everybody. Would you do that? Would you do that if you had the power?
Sadly, I will not. Because just because there are also people who and this happens in the West too, to be honest. And I think this is even mostly in the West. People who just have a huge sense of entitlement. They actually are rich people who work very hard for their money, so they should enjoy it. Some others just feel that the fact that I am in this country, it's your responsibility to take care of me. It's your responsibility to make sure I have medical care. It's your responsibility to make sure that my care. Oh my gosh. And that happens also in third world. You also just see people who they see you driving I don't know, a Rolls Royce, and they just say, oh my God, he's stealing my money. Your money? How do you even know? So yeah, so there's also that balance to say, yeah, some of you need to know that you need to work for it, but there also has to be some process to sieve out those who genuinely are in need and those who just, feel entitled. So that's why I'm just not going to wave the magic wand.
And a lot of the, I would also add to that, a lot of the ones who feel entitled are also lazy and would just sit around and do nothing.
Exactly. I mean, I'm hearing some countries in the West now, they say, oh, why the government retirement age, the government should move it. I mean, it's been moving. The retirement age has been moving. I think like 70, just keep moving because, so yeah. I don't know.
That's a tough question. Okay, very good. Let's get into, so how did you decide cybersecurity, IT, like how did you know
how did that
that's
happen?
Yeah, go for it.
So, I mean, well, first of all, I graduated from college from computer science, right? So technically I'm supposed to have the background. Yeah. It's just that when I was leaving college, I didn't know what cybersecurity was. I had no clue. I just needed to understand how to use a computer. So one day, 1 year after college, I was sitting somewhere. It was a Sunday. I was just getting ready to go to church, and I just got a debit alert. Boom. And I go, okay. Well, maybe this is delayed because maybe I used the ATM a day before. Okay, whatever. Then, boom, I get the next one. I'm like, whoa, what's going on now? And then while I'm trying to figure that out, I get the third one because there were limits on how much you could withdraw at the automated teller machines. So I go, what is this? And then I'm going crazy. It's a Sunday morning, and all of a sudden, all of the preparation for church just goes out the window, and I'm just running helter-skelter. Oh my gosh, that is not a good place to be. The following morning, I go straight to the place, and I say, guys, I was debited. And then blah, 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 blah. They tell me it was a cyber attack. What does that even mean? This is this was 2007, 2008, 2009, actually. It said it was a cyber attack. What does that even mean? I mean, how many people you cyber? And then they said, oh, blah, 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 blah. The system, oh dear. Anyways, so lost the money. That's the first time I heard the word cyber. Then, I mean, I moved on with my life and try, like I said, we had bigger problems. We were trying to feed, so I needed to get a job and all. And that's how I got into Deloitte. So in Deloitte, so that's how I got into Deloitte. Fresh graduate, entry level, all of that kind of stuff. Now, I was recruited in Deloitte as a financial auditor.
Okay.
Because they were trying to get some sort of different view to audit. And so they wanted guys who studied architecture, wanted guys who studied all these kind of things to come into audit and just, I don't know, create something new. But I don't think it worked out because after the first 3 audits, I'm like, no, I'm not made for this. I'm not made for this. So I walk up to my boss then. No, I started complaining to my colleagues, and then I had colleagues around me who would say, go talk to the people in IT. Maybe, IT technical technology advisory, maybe they will take you. And, because it's within the same firm. So eventually I have that conversation. They do a test for me. They take me. And then they now say, guys, the next big thing that is going to be coming is cybersecurity. And so they get a guy to come train some of us who they felt were pretty technical. And then the guy trains. and he rates everybody in the class, and I was the last. So I mean, I wasn't the best. I had people who were very good, so I had to start playing catch up, and that was how I got trained, and that was how we started the whole journey. We actually set up in Deloitte, Nigeria. We sort of we were the first. I was the first, trailblazer when it comes to cybersecurity penetration testing. There were just a team of us who sort of started that and pushed that through, and then we had a good leader. So everyone in that team eventually went all the way to what was called the Cyber Olympics. Then Cyber Olympics is the World Cyber Games for the best hackers in the world.
Oh, really?
And
okay, didn't know that.
So it was called Cyber Olympics. That was actually, I think, the second time I came to Washington, because the finals was in Washington. It was in DC. Marriott. So came there, and I think, if I remember, I think we were third or fourth, I can't remember, something like that. This was 2015 now. And so that's, so sort of did all of that stuff all the way up to that level. Yeah. And then
very good.
Then went into other things.
And now you're a cybersecurity expert, basically, at this point.
Yeah. So I'm an international cybersecurity expert and speaker now. So yeah.
And speaker. Based on what you've seen, are you worried? Are you worried the Chinese are hacking into your stuff right now? Watching, are you? Does it make you nervous based on what you know?
Yeah, I mean, we end up just leaving. One of the principles so there are different frameworks that govern cyber now. There's one of the frameworks. One of the principles in that framework is assume breach, which means assume you have been breached. so yeah. So I'm paranoid. Once I get into my email, I go to sent items just to check if there was any email that left my box that wasn't sent by me, or all that kind of stuff. So because here's the thing though. In cyber, we always say that it's not a case of if, it's a case of when. Because if you are targeted, you will be hacked, regardless of what you do. Okay. So it's important to just always put that out, because many times in conferences, people always ask, so doctor, if there was one thing we could do to, I'm like, guys, I know all these guys who sell the solutions to you want you to buy them and say, oh, this is going to stop all of this if you spend XYZ millions of dollars to buy this solution. There is no silver bullet. I wish there was. It would have been found a long time ago. There's just none. What we all try to do is minimize the impact. Okay. That's all we try to do now, to say, look, how have you set up such that when the breach happens, two things. One, the business can continue running. So I don't do cybersecurity strategies anymore. I do cyber resilience strategies, which means we should be resilient enough that regardless of what comes, the business can continue running. Because previously, what always used to happen was, it's like a football match. And that's the difference between cyber security and cyber resilience. The football match, security is saying, oh my gosh, the US, we do not want to concede a goal. We do not want to concede a goal. We do not want to concede a goal. The resilience is saying, you know what, guys, even if we concede a goal, we must win this football match, right? So we must have a strategy to come back and continue with life. So what I do is I make sure that in the football match on the cyber pitch, even if we concede a goal, we have the mechanisms in place to make sure that we still win the football match.
Okay, very good. Let me ask you this. How did you, and you still speak, you still go on speaking engagements for cybersecurity?
Oh yeah. In fact, this year, I mean, I was just telling you before, this year I'm going to be I'm going to be in Alabama, I think in September, for the National Cybersecurity Summit. That's going to be the 4th continent I speak on this year. I've spoken in Dubai, that's the Middle East. I think I go to Saudi later, spoken in London. I'm in Netherlands in a few weeks. Spoken in South Africa and in Nigeria. I speak in Nigeria too. So yeah, been around.
Okay. By the way, we'll put the doctor's website URL in the post, feneosakwe.com, FENEOSAKWE.com, but we will put it in the post. Yep. That's the best way to get a hold of the doctor and book him for engagements, etc. Before we get into career coaching, which I know you also do, and I want to ask you about, before we get into that, does the advancement of AI make you nervous? And can you tie your answer into, I hear Elon Musk and some of these other people saying, oh boy, we better, caution flags. We might want to slow down a little bit. This could get out of hand. How do you feel? And what are your thoughts on the topic?
Yeah, so funny enough, I have an article which I published some months ago, no, some months ago now, which I called um, AI Risk and Cybersecurity, right? It's published on Forbes. Now, that article, the last time I heard, had over 50,000 readers across the world. In fact,
Nice.
it was
Nice.
some people translated it to Italian. Some I just got a post the other day. It was in India. It's just been all over. And what I was saying there was, it's a two-edged sword, right? It's got two sides to this thing. So there is the good side and there's the bad side. And
Okay.
I think that sort of mirrors everything in this world. To my laptop right now that I'm using, there's the good side, there's the bad side. Everything just has the two sides. Social media, my goodness, there's the good side, there is the horrific side. So I think finding that balance is what is then important. So, for example, in cybersecurity, one of the times we needed to use AI and machine learning, and this is just not even me, this is just best practice. So there's something called 0 days attack in cyber, and a 0-day attack means it was created pretty much today. There's no antivirus that has this signature that is going to block it. Nobody. It just comes boom and it's coming for you. So one of the ways to be able to and a lot of attacks come that way, because your antivirus, the way it works is it's going to take what it's called signatures, meaning, we sort of know. So think about it like coronavirus, right? We know the way the virus behaves, so we got the vaccine and boom. But until we understood how to actually be able to get a signature from that virus to get the to get the vaccine, we were all, on lockdown. So it's the same thing with cyber threats. When a threat comes, until the manufacturers of the system or the software are able to get a vaccine, which is the antivirus, we're just going to be vulnerable with the systems. Okay. And such things are what you call 0-day attacks. Now, artificial intelligence, what I did in a company I worked in previously, what we did was we used AI and machine learning to be able to just understand what the stable state of our environment is. And so what we then said was, the moment there is any intrusion trying to change this state, treat it as an attack.
I see. Okay.
Right.
Yep.
So that's what we did. So that's one way. Okay. And there are tools now that sort of learn your environment and understand, these are the IP addresses that connect every day. These are the stuff. The moment there's something else, it's going to treat it as an attack and wait it off or block
Good.
it. So that's one way to use AI. However, now there's now the piece about, now people don't write articles anymore. People just throw in the ChatGPT and they copy paste it and all of that, and stuff like that. I'm just going to ask it. I'm just going to ask. I'm just going to ask. And so you now get concerned, like, are you sure that? But then now there are tools now. I was reading about one the other day that you could use to scan, and then that tool tells you that this was AI generated. So, I mean, it's a fun time. I really think that if governance is not introduced at the international levels, at the highest levels, we could run into problems. Simply because regardless of how good the intentions are for anything, if it's not properly governed, regardless of the good intentions, it could actually cause a lot of harm and could be counterproductive.
Let's pause right there. I generally agree. Normally, in my political and social beliefs, normally I would be against government intervention in things. Like most of the time, I would vote against it. But in this case, yeah, we probably need some oversight, or else
Yep, we need them.
it could get
Right now we do.
Yeah. Do you think 30 when your daughters are in their 30s, do you think 60% of jobs will be eliminated and AI and robots will do almost everything and the planet will be on universal pay? Or do you think we're way far away from that?
So again, because I sort of have a balanced view to the world. So in the West, there's that thinking that, oh my God, in the next 20 years, oh my God, in the next 20 years. But there are places in Africa that mobile phones have not even gotten there, right? So people still cannot make phone calls. Now there's huge penetration in terms of mobile penetration now across Africa. So I just feel just because the world is and I think many times we forget the world is not America and the world is not the UK. The world is the world. Like, we are talking about 10 billion, 8, 6, 7 billion people. This is not so.
Good
Do I
point.
think that in some parts of the world that time is going to come faster than some others? Yes. But I think that in some other places, I mean, it's probably going to take 2 generations before that actually
Great.
happens.
That's great insight. Really great insight right there, Doctor. Thank you for sharing. I hadn't thought of it that way, but yep, you're probably totally right. Yeah, good one. The career coaching that you do, let's talk about that real quick before we run out of time. And by the way, I want to mention your book, which is on Amazon. And I'm guessing, I don't know if it's in stores as well, but Climbing the Corporate Ladder with Speed. You can look it up on Amazon. How did you decide to put the rocket ship on there? I guess for speed. Is that for the cover effect?
Boom! There you go, Steve.
All right. Very good. Well, it has super high ratings on Amazon. So you can get the Kindle version for free if you're a Prime member. Is that right?
Yeah, you can. My goal with the book was honestly not for financial gains. My goal with the book. So again, it sort of just brings me back to my point. In the US, for example, when you make $1 million, you see books about how I made my first $1 million, how I made $1 million. You see those type of books, how I became a billionaire. We don't have that in Africa, right? A lot of the people who are billionaires and stuff, we really don't know how it happened. Okay, so it's then a struggle to replicate success that you do not know the steps that we're taking to get there. So what I decided to do was, because I had such a fast career rise, I mean, from when I finished college to when I became a director in a New York Stock Exchange listed company, was about 9 years. That typically takes people 20, 25 years for those that get there. So what I decided to do was document how that happened and how people can replicate it.
Okay.
Because for me, it was just important. So that's really what Climbing the Corporate Ladder is. It's, look, okay, I went from sometimes begging on the streets of Lagos, Nigeria for food, and now being listed, all of these awards on Forbes, on now an Amazon best-selling author. And these were the things I did. These were the principles I applied. And you can apply the same regardless of location, geography, all of that. Funny enough, I think the book did best in the US.
How about that? Interesting. And are you also available for career coaching with individuals and or with executive teams, or both? Or how do you?
Oh yeah. So what we do is, so I have bespoke one-on-one, because there are some people who really don't want to be in a classroom with others. So we have special arrangements for them. So that's one-on-one. So I do that. Everything around career and business management. So I do that. Then we also do the piece where, if you want us to come talk to, your team or a group of new hires, for example, or managers who you aspiring senior managers to executive management, all of that kind of stuff. Yes, also come and have that conversation. One of the things I'm also doing, and this is not even commercial, I went back to the university, my alma mater. I graduated from in Nigeria. and I'm partnering with them now to be able to mentor for free the top 20 graduating students from college, just because, like I said, I didn't have any of that in my time. So, I mean, the only way to change it now, I mean, we could talk about it and talk and talk and talk and not do anything, but you need to do something.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, it sounds to me like, Doctor, you're taking your experiences both personally and professionally and driving that towards helping people in various ways through cybersecurity or their career. And yeah, you're making a little bit of money, but generally your mission seems to want to be to help and to make, which I love.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Really to make an impact, to be honest. Yeah. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, yes, I mean, I do a lot of other things. You do real estate, do all those kind of things. But how much do people really die with? You die in a coffin. It's just you, depending on how nice you've been, they're going to put clothes on you or they're going to leave you naked. So... Yes, really. What else are you doing? That's what matters.
Very good. Very good. Doctor, thank you so much for everything you're doing, and thank you for sharing your story on the Riderflex podcast. Really appreciate you.
Hey, thank you, Steve. Thank you so much. I enjoyed my time here today. Thanks, Steve.